You guys good back there? Good to go? They're good to go. Hey guys, welcome to the video. My name is Ryan Styles Harris, and in this video today, I wanted to show you how to tidy up some of the wiring that you're plugging into your receiver. Now, if you're just getting started in the hobby, or you've been around for a little while, but you notice that the pro driver cars, they always just look so good. They're so neat, clean, and the wiring is usually very, very well done. So I wanted to help you guys and give you a little bit of a tutorial on how you can shorten up some of the wires that are going into your receiver so there isn't as much excess wire laying around that you have to tuck and zip tie and do all kinds of crazy stuff with. So there's going to be a few things that you need to do this process. I've linked everything down in the description box below so that you guys can find it and get it if you want to do this yourself if you don't already have these items. Now, I must warn you, the stuff that we're about to look at and work with is very, very small. So if you're not confident in your abilities with your hands and detail stuff, maybe this won't work too well for you. Ask somebody else to do it, or just watch the video very carefully before you try it yourself. Where I like to start with this is get everything mounted in the car exactly where you want it to be. This way, you'll know how much wiring we're going to remove in this process. So once everything is set, we're going to kind of look at the wiring and run it where we know it needs to be run, the beginning portions of it, and then just kind of eyeball it and hold it with your finger where you know you're going to want to cut the wire. Small tip, don't run it so tight that when you have to unplug it or plug it back in, you won't have a whole lot of slack. You obviously want to have a little bit so that it's still easy to work around in the future. Before you go and snip this wire, we need to know exactly what the polarity of these wires are. If you go to the end of the process and you go to put everything back together and you realize, oh no, which wire is which, and you plug it in incorrectly, I don't know precisely if it's going to affect all speed controllers or not, but mixing positive and negative terminals in these power specific situations, probably not a good thing to do. So let's just notate everything beforehand so that we can plug it all back in the end in the same exact way. Don't want to blow anything up. Okay, so we know exactly where the speed controller and the receiver are going to be. We've run the wire and we know roughly where we need to cut the wire. We know the polarity of the wires before we snip it. Now we're ready to go ahead and cut the wire. So if you're using the tools that I have demonstrated here, this tool is very handy because it has a cutter down at the bottom. It has a wire stripping area so that you can remove the shielding. And then the most important part of this tool is what it has on the end of it. Now, depending on the sizing of wiring that you're going to be working with, most likely you're going to be using the one at the very end, which is going to be the smallest wire. This is the part that I personally messed up, and I could see why this tool had negative reviews saying it doesn't work, because you have to use it correctly. If you use it incorrectly, you're going to end up giving yourself a massive headache, and the wires are just going to pull right out of the plugs when you're all done. I will carefully, as best I can, demonstrate how to do this correctly so that you will have something that will work exactly how it came out of the box. So with our wire cut, now we just need to peel and separate the wires just a little bit so that we can remove some of the shielding on the wire. Once you've removed all the shielding, we're going to go ahead and put these little metal plugs, I don't know what they're called, these little guys here. They come on a little prefabbed piece of metal, and it's obviously been trimmed and cut and bent in a very special way. My recommendation to you is have more than you need in case you mess one up, because I've messed plenty of them up in learning how to do this. So hopefully this video will help you eliminate the amount of these little guys you destroy before you end up with a solid crimp. Okay, so back to that part where I was talking about bad reviews and people saying this tool doesn't work. To the best of my personal knowledge and experience, I think that these people were crimping the wire and not the shielding. Let me show you. There's two areas on these little plugs that need to be used to make contact with the wire. The first area is going to be used to crimp on the shielding. The second area is making contact with the wire. If you don't want to take my word for it, here, let's take and remove the plug that was in the factory one, and it will look exactly how I just described. So there you can see the friction, if you will, the thing that's going to hold the wire in place is the part that's crimping onto the shielding, not the part that's crimping onto the wire. This is where I personally messed it up. I thought that you were just going to crimp onto the wire and then that was going to hold it in place. No. I ripped that thing right out the first time I went to move it. Don't make that mistake. First section, crimping onto the shielding. Second section is making contact with the wire. Very, very, very important. Now this is where it requires a little bit of finesse. I've kind of made a process that works for me. You may develop something that works a little bit different for you. What I like to do first is I take the little metal crimp and I kind of pre-bend the tabs there on the end that you see, get them ready and kind of form a little circle, a place for them to kind of get ready for the wire to feed into it. Once you feed the wire in there, then I put the whole thing back into the pliers and then I crimp down on it like this. I'm sorry, it's a little difficult to show you every single detail with a camera because it's so small that I couldn't get all the details with this camera or the other camera I had above, and I actually had to use my cell phone because it was the only thing that would even get remotely close to showing you the detail of what I'm talking about. So I hope it's getting you enough information that you feel confident to try it yourself. If you have any questions or concerns, drop them down below and I'll try and jump in there and help you guys out if you need it. Okay, so once the wire's in there, you've crimped the first portion onto the shielding. The second portion gets a little tricky. Sometimes the wires don't want to clamp down enough and you can kind of see that those little tabs need to be bent in just a little bit more. So what I do is I take the very end of the pliers and I kind of just literally go in there and pinch it very carefully to get a little bit more snug grip on the wiring itself. Because if that's not snug, you probably won't have 100% solid connection and you might have some sort of glitchiness down the road. So make sure that you have a nice tight grip on the shielding and a nice tight grip on the wiring so that there's good communication. Now, once you've done that, ×3 on all the wiring, go ahead and slide them back in. Now, you want to make sure that you crimp them all in a same orientation because they slide into the plug in a very specific direction, because there's a little tab that catches once you slide the one part in, it kind of drops down and it keeps you from pulling the plug back out. You'll see it if you do it yourself if the video isn't clear enough for you. So it kind of goes without saying, when you're plugging it in, make sure that you're plugging it into the correct polarity that we notated earlier, because if you mix them or cross them, then you risk damaging something when you go to plug it in and turn everything on. So be very careful, plug everything in the correct orientation so that it doesn't blow up. All right, now that everything is placed back into the plug itself, go ahead and plug it right back into the receiver and you're good to go. So, like you can see here, it really tidies everything up. It makes the wiring look a lot cleaner. So you have a little bit more space, shaved a little bit more weight, and now you have that super cool picture that you can post on social media and that rate my wiring thing. Don't do that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was really fun making it. I like making these little insider tips because if you don't really have somebody tell you, you're kind of left on your own to figure it out. So I really hope that this does help you guys out and you kind of enjoy the hobby a little bit more because it makes your stuff look a little bit cooler or work a little bit better. Let me know down in the comments below what you think. I always love hearing what you guys have to say. Well, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Like the video if you like the content. Subscribe if you're not subscribed, obviously. And I will see you guys next time.